Hello, hello. This is the My Artifact episode number 3000. Sorry, 4071 maybe, probably. Okay, so today's date is May 25, 2026. It's been almost like a morning at exactly 8:02 a.m. All right, it's been very hot. I will gonna kind of like a wrap up entire artifact in as quickly as possible as it can. All right. Okay, first of all, the question is how will you detect the whole language abuse you? Yeah. Okay, first of all, what exactly is this question and why am I asking this question to myself? I wanted to build an app called My Artifact. What exactly is this application? When you wrote the diary every single day, you cannot able to be write the diary the way that you wanted to. The reason is that your writing speed is much more slower than your thought process. Okay, because of your writing speed is kind of like a much more slower, you cannot able to be write the way that you're supposed to be. And another thing is that now why does writing kind of like a feel really very difficult is because you need a pen, paper, convenient, and spelling mistake and a lot of things. It really requires so much amount of effort to write your thoughts, and that's a kind of like a very much big constraint. By the way, let me tell you one thing: writing a diary is very essential process. Like it's a self-reflection process. You actually connect with yourself more. But if you are not writing a diary, then it's a kind of like a thing that now you are not. Yeah, because of this process is kind of like a very difficult writing process. That's why very less people are kind of like a doing a diary. Okay, or like almost nothing really at all. But what if I'm gonna say that instead of writing a diary, what if you could record a diary, like audio record a diary? I call this process as an artifact. The stuff that you are kind of like listening right now, this is my artifact. My artifact episode number 4070 something. I'm doing this thing for past 11 years. I am doing this thing every single day. Writing a diary or recording artifact, both are self-reflection process. And because of this thing, it adds so much amount of value inside of me. The person that I'm became today and the person that I will become tomorrow, it is all because of artifact. The amount of value that I get from the artifact is just like mind-boggling. I wanted to share this value to the people, share this process to the people, so that people should supposed to be get this value. How do I supposed to do that? By building an application. My application is a kind of like a somewhat something like a YouTube platform. In a YouTube platform, you actually kind of like a upload your video, other people sees your video. In the same, you kind of like a record your artifact, upload your artifact in artifact platform, other people kind of like a sees your platform or listen your platform. Okay, it's an audio based platform. Only one catch is that their identity is always kept hidden. Means like that my real name is Saurabh Avthare, but my artifact handle name would be Prozac 1943 or something else. So this is my app. Now before I wanted to build this application, I wanted to aware of all the possible consequences. What might goes wrong, what might goes right, specifically wrong. Okay, yeah. So I went to ChatGPT, suggest me at least like hundreds of question of all the possible of worst possible consequences of my building application. ChatGPT kind of like suggests me hundreds of all the worst possible consequences question, and this is one of those question. The question is actually in the mobile phone, but while recording I cannot do anything at all, so that's why I wrote the question in my book. Okay, so question is that how will you detect the hidden abusive language? Okay, hidden abusive language, it's a really cool technique to kind of like a something criticize people, criticize government, criticize some sort of specific target of the people. Okay, yeah. First of all, why does people kind of like a criticize? And first of all is that why does people will do this thing? Because artifact is artifact. It's a self-reflection process, right? Yeah, but the problem is that we all are human, and we are kind of like a decide what is right and what is wrong is kind of like a what is right and what is wrong is kind of like a defined by circumstances, experience, and kind of like a consequences. Example, let's just say a particular person who went to jail. Why? Because he killed his wife. Now basically he did something wrong, that's why he kind of like a facing this That's why he's facing these consequences. Okay, yeah. So killing people is a wrong thing, and other people understand that. And when the other people understand that, we understand that killing people is a wrong thing. And from that thing, we decided that we shouldn't supposed to be killed. What I'm trying to tell you is this thing that human are actually evolved through experience, evolved through other people experience, through other people mistakes too. And it just kind of like somebody let them kind of like a more kind of like a somebody aware of what they should supposed to do and what they not. Our judgmental is very much essential for understanding what is actually right and what is actually wrong, because we are living in society. We don't know what is actually right and wrong. Our society tell us that what is actually right and what is actually wrong, and whatever the society tell us, we just actually follow that thing. Well, dude, like, are you really sure that like basically society is actually telling us that what should we supposed to do, what is actually right and wrong? Yeah, like basically it's this thing that killing a man, right thing or wrong thing? Well, wrong thing. Stealing a money, right thing or wrong thing? Wrong thing. Stealing a food, right thing or wrong thing? Yeah, like you shouldn't supposed to be steal the money. Like, at least you should ask, but do not steal the money. Yeah, like, do you understand? Na? Like, these are kind of like a things. Okay, yeah. Sex with a random woman on the street, right thing or wrong thing? If the consent is actually okay with the woman, then yeah, no, there is no consent at all. You just kind of like find a girl, you just take it. No, that's the wrong thing. Okay, so do you understand? So basically it's this thing that these are kind of like a society as rule are kind of like evolved through generation, and we learn from that, and that's why we are kind of like understand what is the right and what is the wrong thing. And right and wrong thing is kind of like a depend upon judgmental. We are kind of like a judging people, and from that judging perspective, we understand that what is the right thing or wrong thing. Okay, so judging people are kind of like a some this thing that kind of like a something criticize people, or judging people, criticize people. These are kind of like a somewhat something same kind of like that. From that we understand this thing. Okay, and higher chances that artifact is a kind of like a thing that people will gonna judge, compare, and things and that. But why? Yeah, still, as I mentioned, is this thing that people are kind of like somebody define how right they are, understanding regarding about how wrong they are. Example. Okay, so basically this thing, I am a right person. I am a right person. How do I know I am a right person? Because I'm not doing wrong thing that wrong person do. Okay, yeah, like basically a wrong person might rape somebody. I did not, so I am a right person. A wrong person might steal money. I am not do that thing, so I'm a right person. A wrong person killed a random person. I am not do that, so I'm a right person. So basically I am a right person is because of that I have baseline that wrong person. I have know that what's really wrong. From the judgmental point of perspective, we understand how much we right and how much we wrong. Okay, understand? And it is higher possible chances that in the artifact people will kind of like compare themselves with other people, and they will kind of like define that how right they are, and that's a kind of like a human process. I also do that thing. It's not really kind of like that. Okay, yeah. Now comparing is a kind of like a somewhat something is a kind of like a, it's not right but it's not wrong either too. Okay, yeah, if you use it too much then it's a wrong. If you use it little bit, understand. Example, I do not have subscriber of Mr. Beast. Mr. Beast has almost like a 500 million subscriber. I have almost like a 1000 something subscriber. Obviously comparing would be kind of like a very, yeah, but still, so basically it's this thing, if I'm comparing with a Mr. Beast, then I would learn more, because Mr. Beast kind of like a did a lot of kind of like a some value. He understand the content creation, he understand the hook system, he understand the how he should supposed to be edit the video and things and that. Okay, so from that point of perspective, when I compare this thing, I understand more, I learn more, I get more. Okay, and that's a really good thing. So comparison is somewhat something right too. Okay, it's not really that. But if you are kind of like a comparison that that particular person have an iPhone, I don't really have an iPhone, then that comparison is wrong. Okay, so everything you did it for right purposes, it should supposed to be right. If you do it for wrong purposes, it should supposed to be wrong. Okay, get it? Now people will kind of like do comparison, people will do judgment, people are do kind of like things and that, because of they kind of like wanted to make sure that they are how much right they are, and that's the true. We are kind of like we are human, and we are kind of like somebody wanted validation from the people point of perspective, or at least from myself, at least from ourselves, that key I am not kind of like doing something wrong. That's because of that I am kind of like did this thing and did that, and kind of like external validation, that and stuff. All right, yeah. So basically is this thing, one thing is that key we will gonna judgment, we will gonna compare, we will gonna criticize. These are all human things, and it will not gonna stop. Obviously is this thing in artifact, people will gonna do this thing. Okay, yeah. Now if you are doing it for your own purposes, for your own good things, that is okay, let you do that thing. But if your entire purpose to kind of like criticize other people, then that is wrong. Okay, if I am comparing with a Justin Bieber, sorry, if I'm comparing with a kind of like a somebody Mr. Beast, and kind of like a try to improve myself, then probably that's a really good comparison, that's a really good thing. But if I'm kind of like a somebody comparing that key Mr. Beast is this, that he was wrong, pathetic, whatever things and that, then that is wrong. That is wrong. Okay. Now, if the user who are kind of like doing such a thing, like they are kind of like a recording artifact regarding about the kind of like criticizing other and things and that, so in that situation, what it should supposed to be do? Well, probably at the beginning I will not gonna do anything at all, because it's a human thought process. Sometimes we have a heat of the moment, and we kind of like blunt it out at the spur of the moment. Okay, yeah. So we might gonna criticize, that's a kind of like a very common thing, and I'm not gonna do anything at all, let them kind of like do, but make sure that they will not gonna mention the other people name, or either they don't really mention their name. Okay, yeah. But if they are kind of like, if those people are kind of like doing this thing for purposefully, like they purposefully kind of like hating, and every single artifact is kind of like talking about shit, like I'm belong to the India, so I'm gonna kind of like give the example. Basically is this thing that a politician is a kind of like somebody criticize other politician, or kind of like a other opposite party of the people. Why? Because they have their job. Okay, yeah. Like opposite party is essential that they have to be criticized the other thing, and that's their job. Okay, yeah. Like literally that's their job. Okay, yeah. If the kind of like a ruling party is the kind of like doing something stupid thing, opposite party is a kind of like a criticize that this is wrong, and this is wrong, and this is wrong, and this is wrong. Okay, yeah. And that's their job. Obviously for that particular purpose, artifact platform is not for that. Okay, you have another platform, go there, do there. Artifact is not for that. But if you are purposefully criticize other people, then that is wrong. So in that situation, what will gonna happen? Okay, first of all is that I will not gonna change their kind of like a something, whatever they do. Okay, yeah. Or kind of like a block, I will not gonna do that thing. Every artifact is actually judged by the Adam, as I mentioned, and from that Adam actually understand that context understand, and when it understand the context, it kind of like give the score that how much right is it. Right and wrong, Adam how decide that is because of that how much it add value to the society or community or things and that. If it add value to the community society, that is good. Example is this thing, you are kind of like criticizing government for right purposes, like women education, safety, power cut, whatever it is. So that is a right thing. Okay, yeah, you are kind of like somebody raising such a issue that kind of like a matter to the humanity, matter for better self and things and that. Okay, yeah. So you are kind of like talking about this thing, that is really good. Adam will understand that, and Adam will kind of like give you highest possible score it is. Okay, yeah. But if your artifact is a kind of like criticizing the government regarding about something stupid shit, or maybe kind of like a things that like I don't know, let's take a kind of like some example. Okay, so recently our Prime Minister PM Modi went to Italy, and Italy's Prime Minister Melanie, something like that, I'm not really sure the name. Okay, so they, like in Indian context, they have kind of like something like, I don't know what is at least this thing that Narendra Modi, Prime Minister Narendra Modi is not married. Okay, he is a bachelor till his life. Okay, so basically is this thing that people are kind of like consider that this is not a kind of like a something the bilateral kind of like a talk. This is kind of like a something that PM Narendra Modi have a kind of like a crush on Italian president, Italian prime minister, and things and that. Okay, they have kind of like a viral video regarding about the melody. So melody is a chocolate, by the way, which is kind of like a something that ki Prime Minister Modi kind of like a give the melody chocolate to the Melanie. Okay, and it is a kind of like a sort of very funny moment, but yeah, whatever it is. Okay, and rest of the Indian media is actually criticizing the PM Modi that he is it kind of like a really right? Okay, yeah, like you are the responsible for the prime minister, you are representing India and things and that, and you are kind of like doing this stupid shit and stuff like that. Now, basically, what is actually my take regarding about that? Well, Prime Minister Modi did something really wrong. Okay, they went there to kind of like make sure their bond means like that India and Italy have a kind of like a very stronger bond. Stronger bond is actually came from the people. Like the Prime Minister of Narendra Modi, Prime Minister of Italian Prime Minister will kind of like connect together. They will kind of like somebody that they will talk, they will laugh and things and that. And that higher possible chances that they will convince more of kind of like somebody bilateral relationship between the two countries and things like that, which will kind of like add a value to the both the country. Okay, so basically that is not wrong, that is completely right, but people are actually criticizing a very wrong way that why are you kind of like giving the melody chocolate to the Melanie of the prime minister and things like that, which is like a stupid thing, is not that. Okay, now basically is this thing, if people are kind of like criticizing for that particular context, is it right thing or wrong thing? Well, basically it's neither wrong, it's neither right. Okay, yeah, it's a kind of like a thing that it's a perspective, looking at the world, looking at how you look at the world. Your perspective defines how you look at the world, and that's a kind of like a difference between the kind of like a right and wrong. Okay, yeah, what I think about that thing, what I think that it's a like a basically, even if those people are prime minister, but they still be funny. Okay, it's not really that they are prime minister of specific country, so they should supposed to be kind of like a discipline and kind of like a talk really good and things and that. It's not. They are also human too. They also have emotions too. It's not really that they are kind of like doing too much far, but kind of like a things that they're just being chill. They just kind of like a thing that okay, yeah, let's have fun. And what's wrong with that? We also, everyone does that thing. Why not prime minister do that thing? Oh. So it's like basically it's a perspective. Okay, what's wrong and what's right? But Indian media is a kind of like a criticizing PM Modi and things and that. So basically, what I'm trying to tell you is this thing that people will always gonna do that thing. Okay, now first of all, why does people do that thing? Okay, why does? Is because of that. I'm kind of like saying this thing. Okay, is because of that. People want something to talk. Okay, let me kind of like tell you, our human mind are always hungry for information, and that's why we evolved that much. That's why you are kind of like see the building, cars and things and that is because of our mind are curious. Is because of that we always wanted to know, even if the bad thing, we always wanted to know. A curious mind. And because of the curious mind, always wanted to know that what's exactly happened, and that's why we just wanted to know what's exactly current thing actually happened, things happen, news happen, things happen, whatever. Okay, yeah. We try to understand, we try to get the information as much as possible in our head. Okay, yeah, because we are all being curious. Okay, now prime minister, PM, prime minister of both the country, they are very higher authority of the people. They are almost like millions of people are look at to them. So basically higher possibility chances that everyone kind of like look at them. That's why they are kind of like talking about that. Okay, yeah. If the kind of like somebody, the prime minister, if they are not prime minister, they are just a common people and they just kind of like a meeting and taking kind of like making fun of each other, no one will gonna kind of like say this thing. Okay, yeah, you are doing this thing. Yeah, it doesn't really make sense at all. Yeah, that's the kind of like a thing. Okay, but because of those people are prime minister and that's why they are kind of like make fun of each other, then probably that's why it became kind of like a very so much big sensational news, right? So that's what I think. Like humans are what are really curious. They want new information every single time. Every single time. Okay. So basically, is this thing, an artifact is a kind of like such a platform where people will kind of like share their thoughts, and thoughts are always been messy. They are kind of like a talk about this and that and that and that. So my question, like, how do I supposed to be kind of like basically is this thing na ki I didn't really create my platform to kind of like criticizing other people and things and that. Now why am I saying this thing? Okay, yeah, like basically my platform is that ki you can say whatever you wanted to say. I'm giving you complete freedom. Huh, but whatever you will gonna say, it will kind of like somebody judge by Adam, judged by people and things and that and that. And from that point of perspective, if you are talking shit or this stuff that kind of like does not really add value, it will kind of like recommend to the less people. If you talk about something really good, then it kind of like add value to the people. It will kind of like recommend to the more and more people, and that's a very much essential. Because of that, I don't want my kind of like a platform is a kind of like a filled with lot of like a shit people. No, because artifact is already a kind of like a very kind of like a messy, very rough. It's not a YouTube refined video that kind of like a people that, oh, that's really good. It's a thought process, and thoughts are always been messy, unclear, like lot of things. Like a stuff that I mentioned, I am not really proud of that stuff that I mentioned, and that is true, by the way. That's a legit true. So that's what I'm saying is that na ki I am not kind of like letting people to talk about this thing. If the people actually talking about this thing, that's okay. But basically, my platform is more or more towards kind of like a making sure they are uplift them. So that's why I have kind of like a question. Like a user will kind like I'm kind of like the app will kind of like ask question to the user, and user give the answer. And because of this thing, I'm kind of like a try to control that key how do I supposed to be kind of like a somebody, how do I supposed to be kind of like a let them talk something that add value in their life, not a kind of like a criticizing other and things and that and that. I'm already give you a kind of like a topic to talk about something that add value in them. Okay, so because of this thing, people will not gonna kind of like a talk about those shits and things and that and that. Probably this is kind of like just my kind of like a things that I will gonna do. Because why I'm saying this, probably because of that I'm not really sure that how does people will gonna utilize this thing, because stuff that I say right here is a far more easier, but when I will implement and millions of people will kind of like assembly, I don't know what will gonna happen. So this is kind of like a very wrong thing. Now regarding about that, if the people are kind of like criticizing about that, so how do I supposed to make sure that that video or that artifact will not gonna get viral? By Adam. Okay, yeah. Adam is a AI algorithm. It understands the context regarding about the people, what they say and things and that and that. Obviously, you do not supposed to mention the name. You do not supposed to mention any kind of like some stuff. But still, people will try to figure it out a kind of like a way to kind of like criticize other people, like using a slang language or kind of like a sarcasm and things and that and that. Adam understand that, okay, and Adam will try to utilize this thing to kind of like a not to promote such a thing. Obviously, people will gonna talk, they will kind of like allow, like, but their artifact will not gonna recommend to the more. So because if I'm not kind of like letting them recommend to the more, if I'm not giving that much recommendation to the more and more people, then obviously people will gonna stop recording such a video and stop recording such an artifact, and they will record such an artifact that kind of like add value in them. Okay, yeah. So this is kind of like I'm kind of like a give the direction to the right positive perspective, and if I'm kind of like a give the wrong positive perspective, more and more people goes toward that. If the people are kind of like goes toward that, I'm not kind of like stopping them, but kind of like a make the flow narrower. So if I'm kind of like a make the flow narrower, so very less people are kind of like a talk about this and that and that. This is I will gonna do. By the way, there are all more security protocol in my application regarding about the how does AI understand the sarcasm, AI understand the slang language, AI understand the every possible scenario. I will mention previously, but talking about this thing at the moment, it's not really right. Why? Because of that, I didn't really build this application. I didn't really build the Adam at the moment. I will gonna build in the future, and I will gonna train the Adam in that way that should supposed to be understand the sarcasm and things and that and that and. Alright, so this is how I kind of like a something that key control the slang and things and that and that. Alright, this is it. Thank you.